Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today is my co-host, Mozza. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, my friend. How are you, Ash?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. We're just off at the back of our live episode that we did last night, talking about the behind the scenes stuff at Fulham. Which I think we did all right with. If you haven't had the chance to watch that, please have a look on our YouTube channel. Go back and have a look. Go back and look at some of our, stop the greed videos we've already made. It's something that we want to start a conversation with. So please do go watch that if you haven't. Obviously, we're here today to do a quick sort of preview of the Wigan game coming up over the weekend. FA Cup fourth rounds. Don't know about you, Mozza, but I'm actually quite excited about the possibility of a little bit of a cup run this year. There's some few sort of interesting sort of challenges coming up with the game on Saturday. And I've always liked playing against Wigan, so let's see how this goes. Let's get into previewing the game though, like we always do. Mozza, looking at this game, we know that from Marco's press conference, we're likely to see some change in the squad. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a very similar squad that sort of played the game against Watford in the third round. What are you expecting changes wise, and what would you like to see in terms of a starting lineup for the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I was thinking that myself, that the lineup will probably be very similar to Watford. If anything, I think Muniz will start over Jimenez. I think that's to be expected. But as you just mentioned off the back of Marco's press conference today, and with the return of Willian, I think he mentioned he had 2 to 3 weeks or something to get match fit. So I don't think we'll be seeing him anytime soon. But stranger things have happened. I don't know. He also mentioned Ryan Sessegnon as well. So it'd be good to have him have a start. I think I know he made an appearance in our last game as well at some point. But I think he needs to be starting a full game in order to take full effect and just get a bit more confidence back and be the player that we loved and remembered him for. But also just, some of the usual bench that we often have going in the Premier League games. I think it's a good opportunity for them. You look at Godo and King as well. We haven't got Reece Nelson back, have we? I had him in my mind as well. Is he still injured or is he?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was announced today during Marco's press conference that he actually picked up another injury
Right,
2 days ago, and he's likely to be out for another 8 to 10 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
So, unfortunately, we're probably not going to see much of Reece Nelson in a Fulham shirt again, unless he managed to sign him during the summer, which is a shame because he was a real bright spark when he was playing. And the fact that his first injury was so innocuous and sort of came after he should have really come off as a substitution. It's rather frustrating that that's sort of been the case. Looking at the game, obviously, there's a few really interesting head-to-heads we might see on Saturday. Obviously, the one taking all of the headlines is the potentiality of Ryan Sessegnon and Steven Sessegnon both playing on Saturday. I'd imagine from our point of view, this is the game that Ryan will probably start. Steven's been playing quite well and quite regularly for Wigan this year. But one of the other players that I think we might see play against us this weekend is actually Tyrese Francois, who we all really loved as a youth player at Fulham. We were all kind of frustrated that he never seemed to quite push through to make it into that first team. He had a few cup games here and there, and he did a few sort of League Cup appearances for the club, but never sort of managed to make it through to the Premier League squad, which is a little bit frustrating. I don't know if that's necessarily a quality thing, or maybe it's just a case of we were quite unsettled as a club at the time, and we couldn't really risk playing him. But it'll be interesting to see playing against him as well. Out of those two, mate, out of sort of Stephen and Tyrese, it'd be nice to play against them. Nice to see them playing professional football. It's always good for our academy when academy prospects have gone on to play professional. It doesn't matter what level of the football ladder they play. If they're playing professional football, then we've done our job as an academy. Are you looking forward to seeing either of them two play against us on Saturday?
Oh, absolutely, and it's a bit of drama, isn't it, or cup drama, as they say. I think they'd be up for it as well. I'll probably end up giving each other a bit of banter, but I think it would be nice, even looking at it, not to be like overly diplomatic or to romanticize something like that, but I think it would be quite nice as long as we don't lose. But also, yeah, with Tyrese Francois as well, keeping an eye on him. And I mean, to be the Fulham pessimist as I always am, or as most of us always are, if him or Steve and Sessegnon score against us, then that will be classic Fulham, wouldn't it? But yeah, no, I'm up for it. I think it will still be a good game. Tough game, though.
So we're talking about this obviously being a cup game and obviously being important. Just how important do you think a cup run is for us this season now? Because, you know, the chances of finishing in the European spaces in the league are sort of they're not slimmer because we keep pulling results out of nowhere. You know, I thought we didn't really have a chance, and then the Newcastle game over the weekend sort of still feel like we got an inkling of making Europe via the league. But if our best bet of making Europe this season is obviously going to be through an FA Cup. It would be lovely to make it to an FA Cup final. You know, win a trophy would be lovely. Um, how important is an FA Cup run for us, do you think, this season?
I can't speak for everyone. I mean, obviously, yeah, like you say, it would be great to get some silverware. I've always been, you know, I've been saying that for years. I want to see our club get some silverware, whatever it be. But obviously, our best chance of that is through cup tournaments and that. It's a little from column A, a little from column B. Yeah, how likely is Europe? How likely is it that we get to a cup final? However, we've got previous form of the latter, so maybe you think that's probably more likely, and I know that we'd all be up for it. You know, you've only got to look at sides like how well Coventry did season ago or the season before even, until they got undeservedly knocked out by Man United. But I don't see why we couldn't do something like that. I think if we are going to come alive and show potential and show a bit of firepower, then yeah, it will be through cup games in terms of it being important. I think it will boost the confidence of Marco Silva, the squads, and the fans. I sometimes wonder how much longer Marco's going to sort of hang about before he might get a better offer, or he might get bored, or he might get frustrated with other things going on behind the scenes at the club. So, if anything, yeah, I think it would add maybe a little bit of longevity to his career with us, because, of course, you know, nothing lasts forever. Yeah, I think Wigan it will be a tough game. I've never been there on an away day. I know that you've said you have before, Ash, and it's a good day out. So, again, I'm going to be the pessimistic Fulham fan and not have too much high hopes, because you never know. But yeah, I'll take either or. If we don't get Europe in the Premier League, you know, I would take a cup final and even lose that.
Well, the thing is for me is that this has probably been the first time in a little while that we can confidently say that we need a cup run. Whereas, you know, the last couple of seasons, even though last year we were sat there going, we were quite comfortable in the league, we were still quite far from making it in Europe in the league. So we needed a cup run, but you know, it didn't quite happen. I think this year's the first year where we can all comfortably say we're not getting relegated this season. We're too there's too much between us and the team and the you know the 4 or 5 teams at the bottom. So that definitely isn't going to happen. You know, would I take a dip in form in the league for us to make it to an FA Cup final? 100% I would. If the club turned around and said now that our concentration is the FA Cup, then you know I wouldn't be too annoyed by that. As much as I do, still obviously I don't really want to go to 20 league games this season and hate what I'm watching, but you know what I mean. Like I would take the priority being the FA Cup if we pushed on with that. But with that being said, you know who knows? We don't really know the ambition inside the camp at the moment. You know, we've had the discussions about our frustrations over the transfer window and the fact that we haven't really filled spots up that we needed players in. You know, Marco was screaming for 2 players at the beginning of the transfer window, and he still hasn't got them. And we've replaced the 35-year-old Willian that we lost in the summer with a 36-year-old Willian in January, which is, that is what that is. A move which I'm not upset with, by the way. I'm more than happy for Willian to come join in because, I don't think he'll start as many games as he did last time he was at the club. But he's a well-liked member of the team when he's here. He's still got that aura, hasn't he? He's still got that footballing brain that we all saw even like the legs maybe slightly gone, but that football brain is well above anything that we'd seen in a little while. And we saw that 2 seasons ago when he first joined, that he's a special player. And it'll be good for some of the younger players to learn off of that. I'm excited for this game on the weekend because I think that it could be another one of those games for Josh King and Martial Goddo, who, again, let's look at some of the the storyline behind what these FA Cup football. Martial went to Wigan last year and had a really good loan spell with them. So for him to come back with Fulham this year, who knows? He could do a Jay Stansfield and score against them in the cup. Like that'd be lovely. But I want to see a big game from Josh King. Let's talk about Josh King for a minute. Obviously, he's a young talent that we all really appreciate. We all really like as a show. As I know that most Fulham fans really, really like Josh as well. And we're all bigging him up to sort of have a good career at Fulham. How important do you think this game will be on Saturday, even if it's just a case of just claiming a spot in the first team for a couple more Premier League games between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, absolutely imperative for him. I mean, it's not the be all and end all if he doesn't start or if he doesn't manage to play at all. But I mean, when you are a young player, yeah, of course, and you've got that bit about you, you want to show your firepower, which he has got in leaps and bounds. I am not worried about his performance whatsoever if he does get on the pitch. I think he just has that sort of charismatic hubris. He's an exciting football player. He's young. The worry is, for me, is if he is too good, he'll get snapped up by another club. But I mean, that would just go to sort of show how good he is. And when I say another club, I mean like a bigger club elsewhere or more successful. Got to stop being negative, haven't I? But yeah, it's a great opportunity for Josh King. I honestly feel like I haven't seen enough of him. I want to see more. He leaves. I feel the audience wanting more. Like when you see go to a gig and see a band and they play their latest hit song at the end. That's what it feels like to me. But I mean, look, he's got years ahead of him. So hopefully he can do the business this Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's a fair sort of assessment of him really, and where he stands at the moment as a player at the club. We could have a similar conversation about Martial Goddo because we know that Fulham initially had planned to send him out on loan for the second half of this season. They'd originally planned to send him out on loan for the first half of the season, but they sort of fell through on the last day of the transfer window because of players leaving and going out. The original move in the summer transfer window broke down because we sold Jay Stansfield so late that Fulham that we had to keep him because we needed the spots taken up. And then the transfer, he's sort of fallen through this transfer window because of Nelson re-aggravating his injury and we're still being slightly short out on the wing. So it's a good opportunity for us to have some youth players come through. We've all been begging for years now that we want to see more of our youth team actually progressing and actually being given a chance to play. And Martial's one of those players that even the first time I remember seeing him play against Crawley in the League Cup in that game where we got beat 2-1, that we were absolutely atrocious in. He was our best player by a long shot on that day. And every time I've seen him play, he does excite me. I really like watching him play football. So I want to see him come in and maybe not, for him, unlike Josh King, who's coming in and maybe looking to try and snatch a first team place. I think for Martial, he's probably should be looking at this game and going, actually, I can probably get Marco to see me a bit more and maybe give me some more minutes in the Premier League, even if it is at a substitute rate. That means I'll just get some more minutes in for the club. And it's one hell of a story for Martial. We've got to remember that he was playing non-league football like 3 years ago because he was deemed too small to play professional football. And look at him now, like he's picked it up, so like there's a lot of love for us for them, both of those two, because we want them to do well and push through. We look at this game as well. You look at other players that are slightly more, they're on the peripheral of the squad. You look at players like Cuenca, who came in against Watford and I thought was superb against Watford. I thought he was absolutely he was brilliant against Watford. Probably unlucky maybe to not really get any more minutes in the Premier League since then. I know he had a slight knock, which sort of meant he couldn't come on in a couple of games, but I thought he did really well. I'll be interested to see if Diop plays in this game on Saturday, or if Marco maybe goes to give Anderson another game, because we know his form's been a bit hit and miss at the moment, and this is the sort of game that he could really sort of level out some confidence. Although, when you look back at the game against Newcastle on Saturday in the second half, the job that Anderson and Bassi did keeping Isak quiet was superb. Um, it'd be interesting to see what we do there. And then you look at midfield. Let's be honest, it's probably a game for TC.
Yeah.
It's probably a game he'll play. We all want to see him sort of go out, and that's not saying it's his swan song year. We don't know if it's last year at Fulham, but we all want to see him going out and with like blaze of glory for Fulham, not just sort of whimpering out and us barely seeing him play for the last year and a half he plays for the club. So we'll see how that goes. I think you're right in your assessment that Muniz will probably be likelihood to start up front. He's on a bit of a run at the moment, scoring goals off the bench. He just needs to start scoring goals when he starts games. So, and we all know how much of a purple patch player he is.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, what we do there, and especially one of the things that I'm interested in is what we're going to do out on the wings on Saturday, because we're a bit light at the moment. And how much rotation are we going to make there? But we'll see, and we'll sort of go with that. Let's finish this game preview how we always finish these game previews, with a player to watch from both teams and a scoreline prediction from yourself, Mozza. Give me a player from Wigan to watch out for, and a player from Fulham for them to watch out for, and a score prediction, please.
Yeah, well, just sort of like based off the back of what you said, I know that Toby Sessegnon is like doing quite well for them, and I think that would be a problem for really whoever we start up front. But I think Muniz, it will be a challenge for him as well. But as you say, we need him to be scoring it if he does start. So those would be my two for us. However, I do just want to also reiterate Anderson or Diop. I feel like Diop should be given the chance to start over Anderson. Yeah, I've sort of fallen a little bit out of love with Anderson the last few performances, despite the bits that he did in the game against Newcastle. But I think it would just be nice for Diop to get a chance to show his face, but remind everyone that he's still up there and he still can compete for that position as well. And also Harrison Reed. I think it would be nice if he could start that game, because I miss seeing our good old Ginger Iniesta. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Oh, and scoreline, blimey, I do think we will concede. I'm going to say 3-1 Fulham.
I think for me, I imagine this is going to be a game for Stephen Bender to be playing. So I'm not wholly convinced with him so far as a goalkeeper. I think an awful lot of Fulham fans are sort of scared at the prospect of him playing after the game at Preston, where I don't think he did exceptionally well in a cup game that we lost that we probably should have won. But so because of that, I'd be very wary of them coming forward. They do have a bit of pace coming forward, but for me, other than Tyrese Francois who plays, or Steven Sessegnon, because obviously the link's there and we know how that genuinely usually comes back to bite us on the backside. Johnny Smith is a player for them that I've seen play a few times this season. I've been quite impressed with. I saw he scored in their last game, I think, and he was, he's a good player. He's a good midfielder who sort of likes to pop up here and there, and he can be a bit of a challenge for midfielders to get a hold of. And let's be honest, that we should be going into this game on Saturday, even with a second string first team, the favourites by a long shot. So we come into the game on Saturday professional, we win the game. It doesn't matter. For me, this is where Tom Cairney probably is our most important player on Saturday, because he sets the tone for everybody else. We see these games many times before, when we were in the Championship, when we were, first came up into the Premier League, where when TC has those games where he commands the ball and he can sort of chess player everybody around him. We control games. We professionally see games out, and I imagine this will be one of those games on Saturday. If you take away, some of the romance of the cup in the sense of, the connections between the club, and there are a lot of connections between the club, we should be winning this game. Scoreline for me, I'm going to go for 4-1. I just feel like we probably have too much for them. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is a bit closer than that, because it's the FA Cup and sometimes it could be a little bit, nerve bitey. The only thing I think we all agree that we don't want is we don't want there to be extra time and we don't want there to be penalties. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But as I say, I think if we go in, we stay professional, we play as well as we can do, we win the game easily. But this is Fulham, and how many times have we said that this season, and that's just not been the case. So we will see with that.
Yeah.
Mozza, thanks very much for joining me on the preview of this game. We will hopefully have a full team of us back on Monday to review this game. And obviously we'll see how that goes. Please do share, like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let your Fulham mates know about us. We are trying to grow the channel, and we'll go through that. As I said to you earlier on, we did do a special live show that if you didn't watch live, you can watch back on the recording on our YouTube channel regarding some of the off-the-field issues that are facing the club at the moment, that I suggest everyone should go and have a watch, and still sort of message in and partake in that, because we will be following that up. And the better these live episodes do, maybe we'll start pushing some of these game reviews and game previews live as well, so we can have some interaction with that. But at the moment, we're still not 100% on that. But anyway, that is what that is. Mozza, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a good weekend. Hope that it's a good, successful weekend for Fulham, and we see ourselves in the 5th round of the FA Cup draw. Everyone going to the game on Saturday. Enjoy Wigan. It is a good away day. They're always very nice there. They always treat away fans really, really well. I've been to Wigan about 15 times and never not had a good time. So, if you're staying over the weekend, hit up that Pop World, and if you're not, then hopefully the next round of the FA Cup will be a reward enough for the journey. Thanks so much, mate. Have a good weekend, and come on, you Whites.